experience the nerves until, 2 minutes. It was really fun last night, especially the second.
Our National Party conference, it's been a great conference. As you heard in my remarks today, a big focus for us going forward in the next wee while is going to be certainly about lifting our standards around mathematics. That's why we want to move the curriculum forward into starting in term 1 next year. We want to make sure that we actually have a knowledge-rich curriculum that actually gets our performance up big time. It's a crisis. That's why I called in the Secretary of Education and the executive team last week to respond to the data that we received, so we can get an action plan in place quickly to lift the performance. With that, happy to take your questions.
Does this new data that you've revealed today, does it make it harder for you to reach that target of 80% of year rates in maths by 2030?
Well, it's fair to say it does, but having said that, we're not changing the target. It just means that we've got to be more committed, and I think it just underscores that every term matters. We don't have time to muck around here. We know what's needed and what interventions are needed. Erica and her team and the Education Ministry have done a great job in responding over the course of the last few days to make sure that we have a plan in place that we can go forward with much quicker in term 1 next year.
What about an interim target that we could hold you to this term?
I'm not prepared to change the targets. I know it's stretching and ambitious, but actually we're going to be trucking on through because it creates the urgency that we need to lift the performance.
Where will year rates be at in maths by the end of this term?
Well, we'll be publishing it each and every quarter, as you know. That's our commitment out to 2030. We're not having a target. What we're focusing on is 4 out of 5 of our kids today are not at the standard they need to be at maths as they go into high school. That has to change. That is a total system failure, as I said. And so our focus is immediately on what can we do, and what we've done is pulled our curriculum forward by a full year, so it's ready to go in term 1. We're flooding with huge amounts of resources going into our teachers, and also changing initial teacher training entry levels, as you know, and importantly making sure that there's regular assessment for our kids. Those are the things that we can focus on immediately, dealing with a situation where 80% of our kids are not where they need to be going into high school on mathematics. That has to change, and as I said before, that's about a social a challenge for New Zealand if we don't make that change, but it's also an economic one too.
Are you giving teachers enough support to make this change?
I'll let Erica talk about what we are doing there. Yep.
Thank you. Look, I acknowledge this is going to be a big shift for teachers next year because we are bringing it forward, but we are throwing everything at this. The resources that we are putting in to support our teachers to teach the new maths curriculum next year is significant. We're also providing interventions for those kids who are falling really far behind, and we're going to work with the sector next week to see what else can we do. How can we be more creative, more flexible? Basically, the boss here has given me the licence to do whatever it takes to get our kids at curriculum.
That new NCA target for teachers, is that going to mean that any teachers that are currently practising lose their jobs?
No, what we've said to the Teaching Council is we need to work with you to make sure that we're upping the standard of mathematics of people going into initial teacher education. For those in Year 13 this year who want to do initial teacher education next year, there will be bridging courses to make sure that they are still able to do initial teacher education.
How will the new curriculum actually make our kids better at maths?
What we've had for a really long time is a vague, waffly, high-level curriculum that doesn't actually state at every year level what must be taught. And so our teachers have been leaving concepts later and later and later at primary. And so we've seen the result of that, which is that only 20% of our kids are at curriculum. What this new plan will mean is that every single year, every maths teacher and every teacher will be accountable for teaching that material every single year, so that we know those concepts are being taught, they're being mastered before the children move on to the next phase in their maths development.
What are the vacancies like for specific maths teachers around New Zealand, and do we have enough to be able to roll out this initiative?
We're talking about primary school here, and the issue with primary school is that our wonderful teachers have to be generalists. They have to teach everything, maths, science, English, art, music, and so what this plan is to wrap support around them to give them all of the resources and tools they need to teach maths effectively. And we know from all of the research that teachers in primary school don't have the confidence that they need to teach mathematics. And so these resources are designed to give them that confidence.
How much do you think truancy and poverty play into our kids' achievement results in primary and intermediate, and what will your government do about that?
Look, there are lots of interconnecting issues as to why our kids aren't at curriculum. We've got a 6-point plan in education that all work together, all of those priorities. Some of those are around learning support and attendance. So we will be attacking this issue from all of those priority areas. But in this instance, we're talking about curriculum, we're talking about getting structured mathematics into every single classroom, assessing our kids, making sure we've got the learning support there for those who are falling behind, and using data and evidence to make sure that this is working.
And I'll just say to you, I mean, I think you're getting a very clear sense of us in education. We are focused on academic achievement, and our priority is making sure literacy rates improve and also numeracy rates improve. And you're quite right. I think if you're a 13-year-old and you show up at high school and you read like a 9-year-old, or you do maths like an 11-year-old, it's no wonder you don't want to be at school. So attendance and achievement is our two big focus areas in education. And yes, there's lots of other things we want to focus on and lots of things we want to do, but we are focusing the system really strongly to say that we need to lift literacy rates through structured literacy. We need to very now seriously lift our mathematics education through structured mathematics, and we also need to have a concerted effort on the multiple drivers of attendance at school as well. Now, if we are recognising that our results are nowhere near where they need to be, and we need powerful interventions to make sure that we've got ruthless focus in the system to deliver those improvements.
Is the testing regime still similar, or
Sorry?
is the testing regime you're going to introduce, that will be still and similar?
Yes, the announcement we already made around assessing twice a year using ASTIL and PAT will be the same in mathematics, so those same, and they will be also aligned to the new curriculum.
And you've talked about it being a crisis and a sector-wide response. Wanting a sector-wide response. Are you going to work with teacher groups, academics and others to get them in the room as part of this?
Well, I'll just say to you, the results came to us just recently, and you saw last week after we had a session immediately with the Secretary of Education and all of her executive team in my office with Erica. We said, right, we've got to do everything we possibly can. But what was very impressive to see was the Teaching Council themselves actually see those results and actually have a special general meeting to say we've got to lift initial teacher education qualifications and confidence around mathematics as well. So we are determined to work with the sector as well. But I want to be crystal clear for the parents that are listening to this today. When 4 out of 5 of our kids are not where they need to be on mathematics, and when 3 out of 5 kids in New Zealand hitting high school are actually a year or more behind, that is a big problem. And so all of us collectively are tied into this because it's really critical, as I said, to our social outcomes, but also to our economic outcomes.
About another of your targets, your target for the party polling, mid-40s by 2026. Is that realistic?
Oh, look, I think we're focused on making sure we deliver for New Zealanders. We are, as you've seen, there's been a good renewal within the National Party over the last couple of years.
Is it realistic, Prime Minister?
We are focusing on making sure we do everything possibly we can to deliver for New Zealanders. If we deliver, the outcome of that will be whatever happens in the election in 2026. Focused on delivering, because that's what you're getting ahead of yourself. What I would say to you is we are focused on making sure we deliver for New Zealanders because that's what they want to know when they go into the 2026 election.
Would you still say it's a very stretched goal?
I have lots of ambitious goals, as you're probably aware and have seen, and I like having stretch goals because I think it drives people off where we are to somewhere different, and that's a good thing.
Is it something you're
Sorry,
willing-
Benedict?
Prime Minister, do you have concerns for the well-being of the children's minister?
Yeah, look, I just want to acknowledge it is a very robust environment in Parliament, and we should be able to discuss big issues very robustly. It's also important that there is respect and care that takes place as well.
Have you checked in with her personally?
Sorry?
It's clear that she feels unsafe at Parliament at the moment. I mean, you've got a duty of care as Prime Minister. Should she be coming in?
My office has reached out to her and the ACT Party and making sure she's got the support that she needs. I just reiterate to you, it is a very robust environment where we expect to have big conversations and big debates about important issues. But equally, that is meaning that we need to be respectful of each other, and we can debate the issues without debating, without attacking the person. And so, as I've been saying over recent months, I expect all political leaders and everybody to watch their rhetoric.
Alongside that, do you have confidence in her and think she's the right person for the job?
Absolutely.
Is it possible to lift outcomes of maths without significantly increasing the amount of hours that people are spending on it? Like, in East Asia, those kind of countries that you've been talking about, they spend a significant amount of time on tutoring and those kinds of things. And
We'll talk about something different, but I'll let Erica talk to
Sure.
it. Yeah.
One of the things that we did when we first became elected was to make sure we're doing an hour every single day of mathematics, and we did that because all of the research and evidence showed that wasn't happening. Now it is. ERO are making sure that it's happening. but also with these resources that we're going to be providing. We know from the providers that use these resources and deliver them that they have an accelerative effect. So we expect to see that acceleration both through an hour a day, focusing on mathematics, and through the resources that we're providing to every single school.
Circle back to the party polling target. Is it something you're willing to stake your job on?
Again, I'm focused on winning an election in 2026 in a political sense. The way that we'll do that is delivering for New Zealanders.
What about your own personal polling? Will you set a target around that?
Again, I'm focused on making sure I do my job, and I appreciate, for the way it's very interesting, all the debates about party vote targets, very interesting stuff, I'm sure, but for the people watching this, the people outside of Wellington who actually want us to get things done, to rebuild the economy, restore law and order, deliver better health and education, that's what we're doing.
You're so results focused, so have you set a target for yourself? In terms of
what matters is that we win the 2026 election ultimately. That'll be determined on how well we deliver for the New Zealand people between now and then.
You talk about attacking the policy, not the person, and yet in the Justice panel, Paul Goldsmith put up the faces of Labour Justice ministers. Is he not attacking the person and personalising in that sense?
Well, I'd just say to you, we know we've inherited a hell of a mess from the previous administration on every dimension.
Do you think he needed
It's been
to put
an
up
abject
their
failure
faces
the
on
previous
screen,
6
though?
years. But what I'd say to you, we are focused. What's important is he actually fixes it, and he actually makes people feel safer by actually restoring law and order in this country.
Do you think he needs to put their faces on the big screen to make
I didn't
point?
see, I wasn't there for his session, but I just say to you, we are focused on making sure that we actually deliver for New Zealanders, and that means, I'm sorry, but we have a different approach to law and order, and we'll continue to do so.
Prime Minister, the National Party
conference itself over the course of the weekend, what's actually been in it for a National Party member who came along?
They've engaged with members. I'll just say to you, look, our members, if you've been covering conferences, I know, Richard, for a long period of time, and if you just think about the last 4 to 5 years and the conferences experiences that we've had over that period of time, the National Party is in great heart, and people are energised, they're enthusiastic, they are very clear about what we're there to do. They understand that we are a results delivery focused organisation and government, and importantly what they got is good engagement with their MPs, with ministers. There were good panel sessions, and they've really enjoyed it, the feedback I've had.
Prime Minister, formal avenues for them to actually, you had five remits and actually debated only 3, and that was it.
We have other mechanisms for doing that. We've retooled our policy program and the way that we have that so that the party can contribute to policy development. We've reset that over the last 6 months.
And what did Sylvia mean when she talked about having a look at the selection process?
We just want to make sure the work that I spent in the first 2 years as leader of the National Party, making sure we had a very good set of candidates, in many cases actually working with potential candidates to make sure that they felt comfortable standing for National and actually attracting good talent to the party is really critical. It's important we continue to make sure that we reach out and we continue to attract good people who want to stand. I want a more representative National Party, and I'll continue to drive towards that.
Prime Minister, just on that, the party president spoke about an initiative to engage more women into the party.
Yes.
What do you think the National can do better in that regard?
Look, I think it's something that I've felt very strongly about in my former life, as you know, working with global women and Leaders for Change and all of that good stuff. I've wanted to make sure, and we made a start in it, but there's more work for us to do to make sure that we have genuinely a more representative set of candidates that represent all of New Zealand, and so that work is just ongoing. And it's I want us to lift our ability to be able to attract really fantastic women who are interested in centre-right party of politics, and to be thinking about maybe whether they want to stand as candidates. And so we're going to do everything we can to do that outreach.
Have you been watching the policy platform as well? What did you think of Chris Bishop today making the pitch for housing, sort of pro-housing policy, saying it's a big threat to the centre-right?
I'll just say that it's important that we have major challenges around housing, as we've talked about before. Supply of houses are being built, supply of houses being rented, supply of social and state housing is kind of important. So, we can keep talking about these things, or we can actually go off and do them. And we've got pretty practical, common sense policy responses to those problems.
But on the political level, he was talking about that being essential to the electoral success of National going forward.
Well, we want to make sure there is a bigger property-owning democracy in New Zealand. We think that's important. When people have a stake with a property that they own, they are invested in their community, they're invested in their local schools, they're interested more in local government and what's happening around them. So, we would all say that. We want to see home ownership increase because we think that's important for a democracy.
Have you been watching the Olympics?
Little bits of it, yes.
Any messages for the boys and girls?
Well, I've been talking to them, many of them messaging them directly, and I just say it's been pretty inspiring. Hayden, I thought, was an outstanding sportsman in the way that he carried himself through that triathlon, to come from behind, to take the lead, and the way that he handled the finish line was fantastic, and the way he's carried himself has been so brilliant. And all of the Kiwis have spoken so professionally and represented us, I think, incredibly well.
Lots of tears, both like good and bad, and a lot of disappointment in the track events of the last few days. Do you have any messages for people coming home without medals?
I just say and all New Zealanders, are supporting our Olympians, to get to an Olympic Games is just an amazing achievement, an incredible achievement. For those of us who've grown up watching Olympic Games every 4 years and following the athleticism, the sports, just to be the best at what you do, to be able to get to an Olympic Games is a major achievement. And then for those that have medalled and achieved incredibly well, fantastic. But I'm proud of all of them.
Your Education Minister got a really warm reception from the crowd today. Is Erica Stanford future leadership material?
Oh, look, she is doing an awesome job, and I think what you've seen is Erica is incredibly passionate and determined about education, and my job is to make sure I've got the right ministers on the right assignments that are passionately connected to improving outcomes in the areas. And so Erica's doing a fantastic job in education. You get a sense of that in the way that she has focused the system on literacy, numeracy and attendance. Then secondly, you look at our other ministers, and I think we've got someone like Chris Bishop, who's very focused on infrastructure, Simeon Brown. I look at the work that Chris Pink's doing on building and construction. You look at what Lou Upston, Paul Goldsmith, Shane Retty. I think I've done a good job of actually getting the best out of each of the talent that I've got, and got them hooked up to the assignments that they're passionate about, and why they came to this place, why they came to Parliament, and why they came to public service.
Does the Deputy Prime Minister have your endorsement for his tweets about the boxer?
I haven't seen his tweets, frankly. I try and I'm focused on running the country.
You try and
I focus on running the country to improve outcomes for New Zealanders.
Yesterday, Louise Upson and Tana Portaga talked about the reduction in the numbers of people living in emergency housing.
Yes, we're making good progress.
One of the key factors they talked about was a policy of family first. People should not come to the state unless they have no option with their own families. Is that family first an underlying principle for welfare of this country?
Well, no, what I'd say is that we want to make sure that in that, if you think about the progress we're starting to make on emergency housing, and we've still got a long way to go, but, certainly prioritising families out of emergency housing into what we call the priority 1 list in terms of getting access to state and social housing, that has helped a lot. But we are determined to make sure that we want to make sure that we get people out of emergency housing into state and social housing. We want to have more people available in the private rental market, and ultimately we need to get a bigger supply of houses built in this country. And we can keep talking about it all the time, which we've been doing for a long time now, or otherwise we actually get things done and we start to get things implemented so that change can happen.
What's been the concept that family is responsible for welfare before the state is famously associated with Singapore, where that's what applies in superannuation. Is the idea that families are going to be asked to do more instead of the state, is that underlying?
Well, we're making sure that we support vulnerable people when they need that support. That's really critical to us. But we're also making sure that when people are getting and receiving that support, they're taking on their obligations as well, because the simple construct in New Zealand is very simple. You have rights and responsibilities. Tremendous rights to being a Kiwi, but also responsibilities to the country and to each other. And that's the notion that we're upholding.
What's been the feedback?
Was there any
last question.
Focus on delivering for Maori at the AGM?
Well, again, all of our outcomes are designed to improve outcomes. You heard us talk about the maths results with Maori, which are even worse than they are across the whole of the country, as they are in low decile schools as well. And so, we are focused on improving outcomes for Maori and non-Maori. And let's be really honest about it. Maori outcomes went backwards over the last 6 years, so we need to make sure, Maori are disproportionately victims of crime. Maori have suffered economically. They're not doing as well educationally, health outcomes. So that's why we are setting targets. That's why we have quarterly action plans, because we need results, and that's there to benefit Maori and non-Maori in the whole of New Zealand.
Thank you,
team. Appreciate it. Good to see you.
Does this target apply to Maori as well?